Hello everyone, my name is Marian Guevara, and here on this channel we talk about books, movies, and more. A huge hello and a huge thank you once again to everyone who is subscribed, whether you're old, new, and a huge thank you to anyone who's just clicking on this video. Thank you very much. Now, today I thought I'd do a more chill video where I discuss a recent read of mine, and that is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Now, I am very much late to the party when it comes to Piranesi. There are several videos out there that are, that review this book, so that's not what this video is. This is basically my spoiler-filled discussion where I just kind of off the cuff talk about, the themes, elements, the characters in Piranesi, discuss what I like and some theories that I have, just my general thoughts overall. So this is a video that will be mainly for those who have read Piranesi and still want to talk about it with me. And this will be very much a free flow type of video, so pardon if I, stray back and forth. But yeah, so if you're interested, please stick around and let's talk about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. So the first thing I want to discuss is our main character, Piranesi. And I don't think I've come across a character quite like him in a long time. At least I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. But yeah, he has such an innocence and purity to him that I found almost immediately endearing, especially when you juxtapose it to his situation and how we fully come to understand that situation later on in the novel and how it is pretty malevolent. And I also found his relationship to the house to be very endearing, especially when you consider that it was initially meant to be a prison, but Piranesi himself doesn't view it that way. You can tell as you're reading the book that he views this not as a place, but rather a person. Like the house is a sentient being for him. It cares for him. It provides for him. It loves him. And yeah, he views this house as a parent. And just the way he views the house, I found admirable because honestly, I'm very much of two ways with regards to the house. On one hand, I can't help but see the beauty of the house. I mean, you're experiencing the story through Piranesi's perspective, through his eyes, so it's only natural that you are going to be moved by the beauty that the house has to offer. I mean, the way that Piranesi describes these massive, classical marble statues, when Susanna Clarke is talking about the way the light dapples on the waves of the ocean at the lower halls, when she describes, the waves crashing as a million diamonds sparkling in the sky. Obviously, yes, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, and many times I was moved. But then on the other hand, I definitely would not want to stay in this house. It has the potential to be a liminal space nightmare. I mentioned in my Gormenghast Trilogy review video that I am very much a visual reader. So when I was reading Piranesi and we were getting descriptions of the house itself, my mind's eye was trying to visualize everything. And as I was trying to visualize it, I was reminded of this playthrough I watched on YouTube, and it's for a game called Pools. Actually, if you do some research, if you look it up, it's not described as a game, it's more of a walking simulator because that's basically what you're doing. You're kind of just walking through these liminal spaces and just trying to pick the correct path so you can progress forward. So yeah, there's no gameplay or anything like that. But yeah, I was reminded of that playthrough I watched. The Pools is very much a liminal space horror, but there are sections in that simulator that were beautiful, that were very peaceful, but then at the same time, as you're just continuously moving throughout the area and you're just encountering all this sort of alien geometric architecture and it just doesn't make any sense and you're just constantly fully aware that you are alone. It made me nervous. The sound of just your footsteps echoing in this large space with no other human soul in sight does unnerve me. So honestly, if I was in Piranesi's place, I don't know, I wouldn't be able to make it. I understand that he thinks that the other is just in another part of the house and he doesn't view, the remains of previous victims there as anything horrible. I mean, bless him. Bless Piranesi. He views the dead as obviously people to comfort and look after, and he doesn't see anything morbid about them. And yeah, it just goes to show his innocence, which, like I said, is very endearing. But honestly, I just can't imagine being in his position. In fact, I think the amnesia, which the house kind of gives you, is a blessing. Because imagine being stuck in this place, fully aware of how you got there, and you can't leave, or you have no way of leaving, or you don't know a way to leave. And how can you just not go mad? But then that's another thing. I feel that because Piranesi's real name is Matthew Rose Sorensen, and we find out that he's trapped here in the house, and then later on he develops amnesia. He soon starts to forget who he is. But then out of this horrible situation, an innocent is born out of it, which is Piranesi. One of my favorite elements of Piranesi is this contrast between the innocent and the sinister, and it's these two that kind of just prop up the story. And this contrast becomes more and more apparent as the book progresses, as the story progresses. And I like it how in the beginning, when I started reading the book, in the first few pages, I felt I was just being plopped into this very whimsical, fantastical setting, this world. But then as we find out, as we gather more clues and learn a little bit more, we discover that there's this sort of sinister undercurrent that has been just lurking underneath. And the thing is, this malevolency that's kind of been buried and we're starting to discover, it doesn't negate the innocence or beauty that Piranesi and us were experiencing in the beginning of the novel. The two have just been coexisting. One does not negate the other. I really do appreciate that when Piranesi comes to fully understand the gravity of his situation, that he has been tricked, lied to, manipulated, trapped by the other, Val Ketterly, this person whom he has considered a friend. The book doesn't become sort of like cynic lament, against humanity and society. Piranesi still is able to display, mercy and compassion. And it really goes to emphasize the fact that the man who came to the house in the beginning, Matthew Rose Sorensen, isn't really there anymore. So in the end, Matthew Rose Sorensen, or Piranesi, is rescued and returned to the real world. And I remember as I was reading, I was kind of wondering, okay, how's this going to end? And I was envisioning two scenarios. Like, one, he is returned to the real world, but he is unable to go back to the house. And so it's going to end off very bittersweet and wistful. Or he's just going to stay in the house and decide, like, this is my home now, I'm not going to leave. So once again, bittersweet and wistful. I did not imagine that it would be kind of both of these. He'd be able to return to the real world, but then also go back and forth to the house. I really like that part in the book where Piranesi decides that I'm going to leave, because he does acknowledge the fact that he can't be alone. The other is no longer there. There's no one really in this house with me. He does want to be with other people. And so he makes that conscious decision to go to the real world, our world. And it felt for me like almost like Neverland Peter Pan scenario where, we can't stay in Neverland anymore. We kind of got to go back. We have to grow up. And in a way, he maybe not necessarily grows up, but he does end up changing, because in the last portion of the book, we're not really following Matthew Rose Sorensen anymore, nor are we really following Piranesi. We're following this new narrator who is sort of an amalgamation of the two identities. And you can tell that he's different. He's not like Matthew Rose Sorensen, who is kind of revealed through the journals to be sort of like smarmy, kind of arrogant. And he's not like Piranesi, who is very much a pure innocent. You can tell from this narrator, this new identity, that this is a more mature and a bit more sober type of person. To me, he's a regular guy who is just trying to make sense of the world through his past experiences and memories, which, isn't that what we're all trying to do in the end? It's postulated in the book that the statues that we're constantly seeing are meant to be embodiments of truth, of knowledge that have passed from our world through the house. And the thing is, if Piranesi can look at these statues and sort of have a sense of awe, wonder, appreciation, almost reverence for them. And these are just representations. What is stopping him and us from doing so in the real world, for the real thing in the real world? And I think that's what's happening at the very end of this book. You know, our narrator, because it's no longer really Piranesi anymore, he is able to see snow falling. He's able to see, orange paper lanterns blowing in the wind. He's able to see regular people whom we might just, brush off every single day. He's able to view all of this through the lens of Piranesi, with innocence and beauty, with a sense of awe. He's not viewing it through this lens of almost disdain and cynicism, which we might have for our world, for our home, for our house, because that's ultimately what this is for us. So I really appreciate that the book kind of ended with that very hopeful and peaceful note. And speaking of the house and the statues, I do want to touch upon them a bit more. I didn't watch anyone else's review discussion, so I don't know, do you view the house as just purely metaphorical? Is it literal? I am very intrigued by what Lawrence, the character of Lawrence, talked about, because he did mention that, he had this theory that the magic in our world left it, and in doing so, it created the house. But he does talk about this with Piranesi, where he says that the magic is not here. It's long gone. He describes the magic as water, and that the house is more of just a cavern that the water has created, but the water itself is long gone. So the magic is long gone. So it does beg the question, if that's the case, is it possible to travel from the house to another house? And then from that house can go to another house? I know that's not the point of the book, but I mean, they put the theory out there, and now my mind's, the gears are turning and they're grinding. A lot is kind of left up to the unknown, which I really like, because, it leaves you to theorize, leaves you to make some hypotheses of what exactly is going on. Another thing of note, I am very much excited for the Leica adaptation of Piranesi. So for those who don't know, Leica Studio, the ones responsible for Coraline, Paranorman, The Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, they'll be doing a stop-motion animation adaptation of this book, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm a fan of Leica, I'm a fan of stop-motion animation, and I am very excited to see how they decide to tackle the house. If you watched a Leica film, sometimes you wonder, I can't believe these are actually built miniature sets. And they are. That's just how good they look. So I can't wait to see how they tackle the architecture. I can't wait to see the waves, the ocean. It's going to look beautiful. It's going to look stunning, seeing all those tides come in and crash against one another. It's going to be great. So yeah, looking forward to that. And I think the thing is, Piranesi, I feel, is just good material for a story like this, because at least when I was introduced to it, I wasn't told a lot. I kind of went into it blind. That's how I was recommended it. Brian from BellTube was actually the one that kind of mainly pushed me or convinced me to check out Piranesi. He mentioned that you ought to go into this blind, and I do agree. In the first few pages, I thought we were just going to get this very whimsical fantasy, but then later on, we are introduced to a mystery. The book offers you a mystery, which I did not see coming. It has something to kind of have the audience sink their teeth into. I don't know. The average audience might get lost in a pure whimsical fantasy surreal story, but if you have a mystery in there that they can, kind of follow, it definitely will help. But yeah, those are all my thoughts, at least all the ones that I have right now. Please leave me a comment down below. I definitely want to discuss more with people who have read Piranesi. What did you think? What did you think of some of my thoughts? What are your thoughts about this book? Do our thoughts overlap? Do you disagree, agree? So yeah, looking very much forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you for listening to my rambling, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!